Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation on why enterprises choose Liquidware for DEX. My name is Ray Swanson. I'm the Director of Marketing here. I'll be the host for today's session. We're joined today by James O'Regan and Chris Walker, who are going to bring us through today's presentation to tell us a little bit more about why those enterprises choose Liquidware for DEX and about Stratusphere UX and Command Control, our solutions for that. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please direct them via the Q&A window, and we'll do our best to get to all the questions as time allows. I know we've got a pretty packed session today, so but please go ahead and ask them, and if we can't get to them, we'll make sure we follow up with everyone. So go ahead, and James and Chris, you guys want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks very much, Ray. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're delighted to have you here, and myself and Chris are going to tell you all about DEX, our DEX solutions. Before we do that, I just want to give you a brief overview of Liquidware as a whole. So, Liquidware is all about our digital workspace solutions suite, and that starts with our application portability solution, FlexApp, which is about dynamically attaching applications. So instead of having multiple kind of golden images and you've got image sprawl, you can have a smaller golden image and then dynamically attach those applications as you're required. And then hand in hand with that is Profile Unity. It's our user and app management. So this is a context-aware platform that essentially delivers all of those settings for users and applications and gives you the control. And then, it's a really kind of useful product if you think about it. If you're in the case of migrating from Windows 10 to Windows 11, you can take all those apps and settings and seamlessly migrate utilizing Profile Unity. So the two solutions we're going to focus on today are Stratusphere UX, which is our DEX monitoring and optimization solution. So Stratusphere, very much about really detailed data and an unbelievable level of metrics. So it's all about kind of giving you those metrics. Say you're in, again, if you're in the scenario of migrations, which is what we're going to delve into a bit deeper, you can do a side-by-side comparison between what it looked like beforehand and what it looks like after. So then, as I said, Stratusphere, all about kind of that monitoring and optimization. And then command control gives you the ability to kind of remediate. So it's a SaaS-based solution. There's no agents. You need to install an agent on the machine. There's no infrastructure. It's a really simple setup process, and that processes data straight away into our control plane, and then it gives you all these kind of real-time metrics that you can utilize for troubleshooting purposes, and you can really, reduce the time to remediation with incidents. So next slide, please, Chris. So I've mentioned the term DEX several times here. So just in case anyone is unaware, what is DEX? DEX is digital employee experience. And I just wanted to use, obviously, Gartner is kind of the industry standard. So what is their definition? Management tools measure and continuously improve the performance and of employee sentiment towards companies provided technology, real-time processing, aggregated data, applications, employee sentiment, and organizational context surface actionable insights, optimize support and employee engagement. That's a real mouthful. So that's their definition of it. And I thought about this and I went off and I was like, how can you make it relatable to people? So one I found and kind of delved into is Dex is kind of like your sound engineer. If you have all the instruments and analytics in front of you, and if you see an issue, you can then immediately, you can turn up the volume, and Dex is kind of like that. You can reset things, you can immediately impact it. So that's kind of where I see Dex. And essentially, I think the whole concept of DEX really, if you think, we're mainly talking about end user computing. In the past, very kind of reactive process. DEX is all about being proactive and actually, involving the user in the process. So, it's called end user computing, and the end user is actually, in a DEX context, is actually considered as opposed to what would have happened in the past. So that's kind of my overview of what is DEX. So the next slide there, Chris. So we want to help everyone on their kind of journey with DEX and kind of look at where they are. So we've come up with this digital workspace maturity framework, which we'll be releasing soon. But this is just to give you a kind of brief overview. We've broken it down into 5 different categories of where you are in that, and Liquidware is kind of there to help you progress to be at the leading edge. So you can see we have our 5 different stages. And as I said, we're going to release this in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be able to, we'll give you surveys to determine where you are in this. But just to focus us back today, what we're going to go through are 5 kind of key use cases we see for our DEX solutions, which are Stratusphere UX and CommandCTRL. So I'm going to hand over to Chris.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Ray. So looking at the
James.
Stratusphere, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I said James. You call me Ray.
Oh, yep. Sorry. Yep. So looking at our Stratusphere UX and CommandCTRL, we've got several different capabilities for the different products. How do they do things? How do they help customers not only improve DEX, but look into the future as well? So, pre-migration, in-user optimization, root cause, we're going to go through each one of these at a real high level to just kind of show you how the solutions help you in each one of these. So in pre-migration or assessment, I'm migrating from Windows 10 to 11. I'm migrating from Citrix to Azure, Azure to Amazon. Our pre-migration information gives us the detailed level data of what we need to make sure I'm successful when I move there. So what applications are in use? Oh, there's this little calculator I didn't know about in accounting that they need to use to cut our paychecks. But if I didn't do my pre-migration assessment, I would not have known about that. So making that, a lot of times things fail because I didn't have the data that I needed. And I've seen customers say, well, I only want to assess 50% of my environment. And they miss that one accounting calculator and they can't cut payroll. So assessing and looking at that environment is very critical. And Stratusphere gives you all of that data. What USB devices are plugged in, the applications in use, what is it talking to, how often is it talking to, are they happy with their current physical machine? And then what size machine do I need to give them in Azure? All that data is collected and provided and helps you really make sure that I'm 100% successful in my migration environment. Time is ticking. James, in the Windows 10 environment, what's the industry saying right now? I mean, how do you think people are prepared for this right now?
That's a good question, Chris. I think a lot of people are kind of assessing what they're doing, and as we're stating on screen here, is like October 14th. It's coming up fast. So if you haven't decided or you're kind of unsure what to do, reach out to us. We're happy to help with these kind of migrations.
Yep. And I've seen a lot of my customers they've already started trying to migrate to Windows 11, and a lot of them have had to back it out because they did in-place upgrades and the drivers were failing and causing blue screen issues and all kind of stuff. So in-place upgrades, be very careful with that and make sure you understand every driver on that machine before you start rolling out to several thousand devices. Stratusphere does have a Windows 11 compatibility report, which we're actually updating right now because Microsoft keeps changing some of the requirements as far as TPM chips and memory requirements and things like that. So yeah, if you're a Stratusphere owner, you can run this report inside your system. It'll show you all the machines that are available for an in-place upgrade, or whether you have to literally format the machine and where that machine actually failed in the environment. But we're going to have a KB article on this on our website because this is changing almost quarterly from Microsoft of these actual requirements to go to Windows 11. Application strategies, do recommend very highly that you look at your applications and what you're using as you're migrating to Windows 11. You may find a lot of application rot out there where I bought a specific application for my users. They needed it in Windows 10. It's built into Windows 11 like the snipping tool. I love Snagit. I can do all kinds of stuff with Snagit. So I bought Snagit for 10,000 people, but everybody's now using the snipping tool. So that's a chunk of change that I can get back. So looking at the application usage as you're changing your platforms is a great time to look at that data. And we built some really powerful Power BI reports to be able to help you collect that data and what's being used, how many people are using it, and things like that. All right, so we're going to get into a specific demo here and I'm just going to kind of click through this. I'm not going to play the whole video here. All right, first of all, talking about, what is Stratusphere, all the end-to-end metrics. And a couple of years ago, we added into Stratusphere the ability to track USB devices. This is one of our customers came to us in the healthcare industry and asked us, I need to be able to track my power mics, my badge scanners. I have multiple badge scanners. So can Stratusphere do that? Over the course of a couple of months, we were able to collect his requirements and get him that data. And now in Stratusphere, it does actually have several reports. And what this has in it is the vendor ID and product ID of the devices plugged into the USB ports. So now I can see what Microsoft mouse drivers are out there in my world, what badge scanners I have. It's been very popular in my healthcare customers. And poll question. There we go. So from a poll question, how far along are you in your Windows 11 migration? So are you just getting started, 100% done? Congratulations. Let's give it about 30 seconds for the poll questions, and then Ray can tell us the results. All right, Ray, have we got everybody responded?
We do. We have everyone responded, and it's kind of a runaway train. It looks like about 100% of the people are saying that they're only 25%.
Wow. Yep. And in large organizations, it does take a while to move. October, I'm wondering if Microsoft actually may extend that. Don't take my word for it, but they've done it before with Windows 10. So we'll see. Windows, 8, 9, and 10. So, yep.
It'll be interesting to see, Chris. I don't necessarily think that, but what they might force companies to do is choose the extended support, which they will obviously give to you at a premium, as they have done with if you think about it, they did it with Windows 7. I know of several government organizations here in Ireland that opted into to the extended support, and I'd say it's going to be a similar case with Windows 10.
Yep. Let's wait and see. So next, we're going to talk about end user experience and optimization. So how do I monitor that user and actually optimize his infrastructure, make him more productive? So basically, Stratusphere has a process optimization technology. This has been in Stratusphere for about 4 or 5 years now. It's very safe technology, unlike some of the clamping technology that's out there and some of the other solutions. The process optimizer actually just changes the base priority. So imagine the middle of the day, I'm working on my computer, I'm on the VPN, and you push down an SCCM update to my system. Well, that's going to take up CPU and internet connectivity and all this other stuff. Process Optimizer actually puts the processes that I'm working on in the foreground so that they're above normal. So an SCCM update coming down in the middle of the day can't hurt me. Also think about, I'm watching a Google Chrome video and for training purposes or whatever, I flip over to Visio. So process optimization allows you to extend the life of that equipment as well as make the user more productive because he's not being slowed down by processes in the background. Here's a view of Stratusphere and our user experience with the DEX feedback. So as users are pressing the buttons out there in the field, and I can look at their overall response time, application is non-responsive. Our optimization technology actually helps to lower ANRs, application non-responsive, and can help the overall performance. And basically that user coming back and saying, I'm having a good day. This is a view of what we call the individual inspector inside of Stratusphere, giving me like a help desk type environment. I need to look at this user on this machine, and that's all I need. So it gets you, you type in a user ID, It shows you all the machines associated with that user over the time frame that you have selected, and then you can go and look at very detailed information like CPU or RAM or disk or his applications and processes running on the environment to help him diagnose what's going on in his particular use case. Also want to point out our spot check methodology. This deals with the cheat sheet. So basically, what is CPU queue? What does it mean? What is the value? So these are for different platforms: Physical, Omnissa, Dizion, Citrix, Azure, Amazon, all the different platforms. What should my CPU queue be? What should my latency for my PC over IP or blast be from Atlanta to New York, from New York to California? This is really good. It's on our support site under the SE field articles. I'd recommend people taking a look at that because it's a really good cheat sheet of what should the Stratusphere numbers actually be for me to have a good user experience in my environment. Next poll question: do you have a DEX policy in your infrastructure?
All right, get your answers in.
And that is a broad question, as James explained earlier, because DEX, monitoring it for user sentiment, or do you have just a monitoring tool like Stratusphere to monitor the performance numbers? So Stratusphere has actually been doing DEX for 14 years. We've been assigning a good, fair, poor ranking to the users and the machines and the applications for over 14 years. Now, Gartner's all of a sudden said, hey, we like that.
All right, excellent. Let's give it one more second. Get any last votes in. All right, we'll end the poll. And again, a unanimous decision here. No.
Wow. Yep. Yep. So DEX is a complicated thing to implement in an infrastructure. Stratusphere can help with that. But yeah, looking at that DEX, and most of the time that comes down from the executives. James, would you say most of the time that the DEX is being pushed from the executives down? It's not really the IT staff pushing for that?
Yeah, it definitely would. Like if you look at it, like it's in either it's also like in a lot of companies now, it's in like their shareholders summary. They have what is their DEX score internally, because they look at it from not just like an IT perspective. They look at it as, how they entice people to join their company, by having that good user experience, that DEX experience, and that's and that's a way they appeal to future employees. Because IT is, as we all know, it's all moved along, and we're not where we used to be, where you just deployed a desktop, locked it down. Here's your set applications, and that's away you go. There's a lot more choice and customization required by end users these days.
Yep. And our system asks me every morning if I'm happy with my machine, and I always say no. And my boss is like, why aren't you happy with your workstation? Because I want it to boot and be up and running and logged in -2 seconds. So until that happens, I'm never going to give you a good ranking on my computer because I'm picky. I would be able to press the button, be logged in -2 seconds. So take the DEX polling and the user sentiment with it has to be tapered and understood about the user because yeah, you'll never get an approval from me and how long it took my machine to boot and me to log in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, Chris. It's called user sentiment. So you do have to then that's the beauty of Stratusphere, is that yes, you have the user sentiment, but then you have all of the details and the analytics around what's actually going on with the machine. So you can do a comparison between the two and say, well, why is this end user complaining when the fact is everything is green across the board? So
Yeah. Yep.
so it can we give you both essentially with Stratusphere. So yeah, I think that makes it easier for IT teams because you can do that kind of side by side comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris is complaining about his boot and login time, and it literally only takes him 35 seconds. He's being picky. All right, root cause analysis for performance. This is something that Stratusphere has been doing for years. It's helping our customers determine exactly which lug nut on the car is causing the problem. Am I just out of gas? Is the radiator cap loose or something like that? So Stratusphere has thousands of metrics in it that we collect all the time, and we have the ability to really drill down to that granular level and then look across the entire environment to how many other people are having that issue. So we talk about root cause analysis, detailed forensics. Yes, I've actually been on the phones doing forensics level recovery because the company had fired somebody and the FBI was on the phone and they were burning DVDs of data of everything that that user had done. So like he had loaded Dropbox on the machine and was putting data out onto the public web and things like that. Integration with products like Power BI, business intelligence, Splunk, ServiceNow. So getting that data and visibility into the key people that need that information. Because at the end of the day, if I've got all this data and I can't get it into the hands of those level 1 engineers that are answering the phone calls, I failed. I need to get that data into their people's hands so that they can help that user either one, successfully remediate the issue, or at least route it to the appropriate team so that I can get that users back online. We talked about all the different comprehensive metrics inside of Stratusphere. I mean, there is a lot of them, and we monitor all users, all machines, all applications all the time. So unlike our command control product, which is a real-time solution, you can't pull all this data in real time. That's why we have 2 different diagnostic platforms. So Stratusphere is going to collect all the data, everything plugged in the machine, CPU temperature, all of GPU temperature, everything about that box, Wi-Fi statistics, how far you are from the access point, and then I can actually remediate it with our command control solution. Or turn the data upside down and say how many other people are having this issue. When we talk about command control and some of its key metrics, it's monitoring this data in real time. So your CPU, your RAM, your Wi-Fi information, it doesn't have the detailed level data of Stratusphere because I can't pull that in real time without literally killing the box. But command control is a remediation tool. And as James is going to show you here in a minute in a demo, a very graphical interface, all SaaS based, allow me to remediate the issues that I found, run scripts against the system, a remote PowerShell capabilities, remote control capabilities to help me remediate that end user. It is a one-to-one. I'm working right now with Ray on his machine. Then I go back to Stratusphere, find out how many other people have this issue. Then I can use command control to roll out that particular fix if I needed to. Stratusphere cross-platform, so we talk about Windows, Linux, Mac, iGel, Stratodesk, all the different platforms. So whether it's Citrix, Omnissa, or Horizon, Amazon, Azure, on-premise, and when we talk to our customers, they're like, yeah, Stratusphere is for VDI. So that's where we got our start, was monitoring virtual desktops. But our largest customers are physical machines. Like I got a large customer, he's got say 20,000, 15,000 virtual desktops, but he's got 60,000 physical devices that I'm also monitoring across the world, collecting all that data for user experience and diagnostic purposes. Here's an overview of our command control solution. Notice this is, it's actually in dark mode. It's very nice and pretty. And that location service up there is live. If the user in this particular interface turned on the VPN, at the bottom, there'd be another tile that showed up to allow you to see that VPN just came active. And then as an administrator, I can go in here and shut down processes, restart information. I even have a DVR function that I can look back in time to see when specifically something happened in the environment, run scripts against it. It really is a full remediation program. But again, I'm looking at one user, one machine at a time. Stratusphere is designed to look at the entire infrastructure. So this user I was looking at is Ray's machine, and Ray had a problem with a specific driver dealing with his HP laptop. Then I can use Stratusphere to find out how many other machines are going to have that issue tomorrow, have my SCCM team roll out a fix to prevent people from calling the help desk, and I just headed off 200 more calls to the help desk tomorrow. Command control innovations. I talked about the DVR. So Stratusphere keeps 30, 60, 90 days of very detailed data. Command control has a DVR function where I can actually slide across the top and look at individual points in time of real-time collected data. And it's either 7-day or 1 day, depending on which license that you pick. And then we also have a switch function. So right now I'm looking at Ray's laptop. Ray is also controlling a virtual machine. I can see that in command control and immediately switch to that machine. So I've got both sides of Ray's equation. I've got his laptop and his virtual machine. So it allows me to see the correlation between the two devices and very easily display that. I don't have to ask him, hey, Ray, are you on a VDI machine? It would actually show up in command control that I could go look at very quickly. ChatGPT integration, some people ask this, hey, do you have AI? It is a very specific AI integration for command control. And what it's designed is around the processes. So if you see a process in command control that a user is running, you can right click on it and ask ChatGPT, your own instance of ChatGPT, of what is this? And it'll give you a definition of that to tell you what that process is related to. So some people ask, how integrated is AI into command control? That is the only integration right now. It's just for process lookup. We may have more in the future, but right now it's just to identify processes. Protocol mirroring, this gives me the ability to look at the endpoints as I talked about back and forth earlier. Aids in troubleshooting the devices, basically end to end. I need to see Ray's laptop and his virtual machine in the Amazon cloud, so I've got a clear picture of that and what is the PC over IP or BLAST protocol doing. Stratusphere UX Help Desk is more global. So here's a dashboard that I actually built years ago in Stratusphere. How many people have a last boot problem, so they haven't rebooted in over 35 days, login delay, kind of a summary of my health of my entire infrastructure. So this is a dashboard that I built that I can download off our demo system and import it into your system, because this does not come with the product. CPU memory, how many people are violating my spot check methodologies? So notice in the left-hand tile, each one of them says spot check. So those are based on industry standards for memory utilization, disk throughput, CPU utilization, things like that. And it's a real easy dashboard that I can look at my entire company or only show me the accounting users in Atlanta. Our optimizer technology, this is again, we're talking about the process optimization technology, where I actually look at the foreground application and mitigate as much as possible anything in the background that may be hurting me. Stratusphere has a report that can actually show you how much I/O and things are being done by each individual process. Another demo here for our login breakdown. This is one of our most popular features inside of Stratusphere, is the login breakdown technology. So this gives you the ability, and this is tracked every time a user logs in. So we actually have boot, login, with Stratusphere 6.7, also log off capability. What you're seeing on here on the screen is things like domain controller discovery time, domain controller operations, computer policies, all of the key buckets that are required for a proper login process. So let's go a bit further. Skip some of this. All right, so first step would be to come in and look at the summary of the login process. So my boot here took about 45 seconds, and then how long did each individual step take? And people ask me a lot of times, so my my Citrix director is telling me that the user logged in 30 seconds. And that's probably correct. But that is a Windows API that says the login process is completed. Stratusphere actually tracks post-login activity. So when is the machine actually usable? So the login process in this particular environment completed in 20 seconds. But another 80 seconds later, the machine is still starting up Microsoft Teams, it's starting up Snagit, it's starting up all this other stuff. So the machine is not actually usable for 100 seconds. So now we can go to the actual detailed information in a login breakdown and notice the timeline. So I'm looking at my timeline. I'm looking at the duration, the individual processes being used by that particular login effect. So my domain controller discovery, PowerShell scripts, anything that, and there's a really good video on our training site for this too, by the way. So go to support.liquidware.com, look at the training and actually show you how to navigate into this information. Poll question.
Let me get that launched.
Okay, then the reason we're asking this is basically the goal of Stratusphere or CommandCTRL is to reduce that resolution time by giving you the correct data in amount of time. So if you look at your average tickets that are coming in for end users, does it normally get resolved in the first call, like in an hour? Sometimes is it 8 hours, a day, multiple days, because we don't have the tools or the visibility into the environment to actually diagnose what's wrong with Ray's machine. Is his hard drive full? Is it that simple? Is the hard drive corrupt?
Man, my machine has got a lot of issues based
It
off of
does.
this conversation today. But actually, so I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. But right now, it's looking like we are a 50% split between anywhere between 8 hours and 1 day.
Okay.
So no 1 hour and no multiple days.
Okay. That's good. That's good. All right. Continuous performance in DEX and DAS. So optimization of the environment. So we've gotten past the root cause analysis, things like that. How do I move forward? I want to continue to optimize my environment. So root cause analysis, what caused the problem that happened last Tuesday? So we had an issue last Tuesday, and I need to go back and do a root cause analysis of what happened. What version we rolled out a new version of software. It was running at XYZ CPU, memory, disk, and network. Then this new version comes along. All of a sudden, my CPU goes through the roof, and I have to roll that back. So how do we, who rolled out that patch? What was the effect on the equipment? So how do we do all that and get our business uptime higher so that I can increase my density, I can increase my my user sentiment inside of the environment. With the overview dashboards of Stratusphere, the first one, so when you log into Stratusphere, think of key performance indicators, KPIs. This isn't CPU, memory, disk, and network. This is my workspace impact, my user login delay, operating systems, machine user experience. So giving me a view of the environment from a key performance indicators. And as you go into Stratusphere deeper and deeper and deeper, you get down to more and more detailed level data. Here we're in the detailed view. Now I'm looking at individual DEX feedbacks and CPU performance information. So the detailed view is more the engineering, not key performance indicators, but tell me what's wrong. Why did that guy rank that thing as fair in the environment? Oh, here it is. He's got 3 ANRs. He's got a high CPU queue. All the stuff in red there is why he said it's actually fair. Got the log off breakdown, as I talked about earlier. So the ability to actually break apart the log off process. Very important in virtual environments because I may want to switch to another machine. I need to make sure I get fully logged out before I move to another machine and attach my profile. Internet connectivity. Stratusphere has the ability to do a speed test. Yes, speedtest.net from my house, and you can structure this very cleanly so that it doesn't run in the office. It only runs when I'm outside the office. It only runs a couple times a day because you don't want to do this all the time. I'm getting the ISP, so who is your service provider at your house, your upload and download speed, and it's very handy for troubleshooting issues with the local ISP at that user sitting in Bogart, Georgia. Ray, you want to take the CommandCTRL section?
James, I think that's for you.
James,
Yeah, sure.
It's Thursday, guys. Sorry.
No problem. So yeah, as we've talked about, CommandCTRL has a task manager view, and here you can kind of get more details around your CPU, memory. Look, you can see here it's all about the Ethernet. Just go to the next slide there, Chris. So this is what we were talking about earlier. This is the processes overview, and this is where it displays all the processes, and you can interact with those processes. You can stop them, you can start them, you can disable them. So the whole concept behind CommandCTRL is very much on being able to troubleshoot and remediate via the console without disturbing the user. So this should be all seamless from the user. We do have the ability to initiate a remote session if you can't solve it, but the hope is that with utilizing the console, you'll be able to achieve everything you can from the console without having to kind of initiate a remote session and kind of interrupt that user. Next slide, please, Chris. And as I said, yeah, we were talking about processes there. This is the one on services. And as I said, you can stop, start, disable, and even remove them. So next one. Okay, so let's start the video. To access our DVR playback feature, simply go to View History. And as you can see, it brings up a set of dates. Now, what you can do is you can actually drill back. As I said, it keeps data for up to 30 days. So let's say we click on the 3rd here. So I've clicked on that there. And then it brings it up here. Then I can choose a time. Ooh, so I can see there was some incidents at 12. So I can look at it. I click on it. And now I can go through the timeline. I can go through, just let it run, or I can speed it up to get to a particular time on that date. And as you can see, the console changes show it's reflecting what was happening in the console at that particular time. And I can pause it and I can keep going, but then I've seen, oh, there's something here. So I can see all the different things that were going on at a particular point in time. And as I said, I can just pause that. I can make it go faster if I want. So if I wanted to, I can speed it up, or I can choose the speed and make it slower as well. I have various different options, and what I have is basically the ability to go to a particular point in time and then determine what was going on at that particular point in time. Because as we know from a troubleshooting perspective, that a user would say, oh, well, the issue's not happening anymore, but it was happening at 12:20. So we can just go back to 12:20 and have a look at the exact. So we just roll it back. And we can see exactly what was going on with that machine at that particular point in time. So I think that's a really good feature because it keeps data for up to 30 days. So it really helps in that troubleshooting process where, someone says, oh, I had this issue, but it seems to be fine now. And as we know, that's pretty common in troubleshooting. All right, next. Okay, we have another poll.
So in this, we're basically asking what platforms, because we find a lot of our customers, especially the larger ones, are in multiple platforms. They may have on-premise VDI, they may have Azure, Amazon, GCP, Google compute technology. So we're just kind of looking to poll our customers and see which platforms that you're primarily using in the environment.
So before we end this, we'll give people one last chance here, but at 67%, we have on-prem and Azure, and 33%, so about a third of people are using AWS right now on this platform. So it looks like nobody's using GCP.
Okay.
That kind of, yeah, that's what I expected.
All right, last one, capacity planning and optimization. So it's not just enough for me to be able to diagnose my environment. I need to be able to look into the future. How do I get that that environment? So I know I'm going to be buying a new company. Know I'm going to be expanding in my sales division. So right sizing my environment, reduction of cost. So we actually did a project with a customer where we went in and analyzed their Azure environment with Stratusphere, and looked at which tier of machine they were on and the density which they were getting. So they were getting like 6 people per machine. And we were able to calculate using some Power BI calculations out of Stratusphere data and determine if you move to this next tier machine, you'll be able to get 12 people on there and actually reduce your fleet. So they had like 150 machines. We got them down to 90. The end result was they saved like $1.5 million a year in Azure spend. Now, they also engaged our optimization technology as well, which made the machines more efficient. So being able to optimize my environment, is really crucial in these day and ages where everybody's trying to save money. Here's one audit for the Amazon. This is a Power BI interface that we built on Stratusphere data for one of our customers running in Amazon workspaces, looking at the bundle size that they were using. So the users at risk, 51 users at risk because they weren't in the proper tier of machine. They were waiting on CPU, they were waiting on disk, they're given a standard or a power machine and they needed more power. And Stratusphere has all that data. We've developed some Power BI reports to very easily render that information. Here's a capacity management one that we did for a customer that was running Citrix. They wanted to be able to look at their individual pods or their clusters in their environment and determine how much capacity was left in those systems. So they look, the CPU, this is more of a management report, but they want to look 30 days of history over the environment to be able to look at loads across the infrastructure and how the environment was performing. This is when we're talking about the process optimizer. Gets into down here on the bottom here. I'm using Google Chrome. It's eating up 34% of my processor. Then I need to flip over to Visio. Visio is now my in-focus application. So the base priority is changed to above normal. Chrome is set to low. Therefore, my Chrome running in the background cannot hurt me while I'm using video. Very powerful and safe because all I'm doing is literally changing the base priority of the system. Optimizer impact. So people want to know, okay, how much is Optimizer actually helping me? What is it doing? So again, we built another Power BI report about CPU queue swapping, application non-responsive. So how did that actually help out my environment? When I turn that thing on, it's doing a lot of stuff on a millisecond by millisecond basis. What did it actually do to my environment? So we built out this, and as far as we can tell, we haven't even been able to detect a load from Optimizer because all it's doing is changing the base priority based on what's in focus. So there seemed to be actually no impact whatsoever for turning this on and a huge amount of improvement for my users. Even in a virtual environment, think about it, I give him 2 CPUs, he really needs 3. This isn't going to fix that problem, but it can mitigate it so the foreground application is above normal and the other apps aren't going to hurt me. So I can get away with 2 CPUs in Azure instead of buying a 4 CPU instance. All right, another poll question.
All right, we got the last poll going.
Now, for most IT people, they would probably say that I'm reactive because I'm reacting to issues in my environment. I don't have time to go out and look and find out how many people are having a problem with their camera today. So that would be reactive, or not reactive, but I want to go and look for those issues. But most IT staff, I would say, is reactive in their responses.
All right, great. So looking at the results before we end it, we'll give people a last chance. We got a 50% split. People are saying they're somewhere between reactive and somewhat reactive.
Okay. Yep. Yep. All right. All right, so just kind of reviewing the different places that Stratusphere and CommandCTRL can help you. And Ray, if you want to wrap us up here.
Sounds great. Excellent. Well, great presentation today, guys. If you have any questions, don't forget you can put them either in the Q&A or in the chat. Before we get to some of the questions here, we want to mention our customer support. Our customer support is fantastic. We get amazing resolution from there. I believe, gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that our success rate is something around 99%, the customer satisfaction rate, sorry, not
Yep.
success rate.
Yep.
So it's amazing. It's almost impossible to be so perfect. So if you are a current customer or if you decide to be, this is a great resource for you to leverage out there. Chris, you want to go to the next slide?
Also on our support site, we have our training as well. So we've just announced new training as well up there.
Excellent. So as far as questions go, please ask any questions that you have. I'll check the Q&A window here in just a minute. But if for some reason we run out of time here and can't get to all the questions that are out there, a great place to carry on the conversation and reach out, or if you want to have a deeper conversation than just ask a question, is join our community site. And so our Slack community is amazing. Both James and Chris, our presenters today, are active people in that community. We have a lot of our other experts that are, actually all of our other experts are active in that community as well, as long as other users. So it's a great place to go and get questions from either other users or the experts out there and have those deeper conversations about that. Go ahead and click it one more time. And one of the actual benefits here is in the month of April, if you join up before the end of the month, we're going to do a raffle of all users in the Slack community for a Lego office set. So even if you're just a Lego fan, maybe you just want to join the community. But you know, I think once you join the community, no matter what, you're going to get hooked because there's a lot of great information there to be had. Next slide, please. Also, any customers that we have on today's call, if you are a current customer and want to provide feedback, Gartner Peer Insights program is collecting information about Liquidware. And so what they do is for a 10-minute survey of your time, you can provide feedback on your experience using our products. This is something that other people use when they're making decisions or evaluating solutions. So it's valuable to have out there. And Gartner will actually send you a $25 gift card for 10 minutes of your time. So you can scan one of those QR codes and take that Peer Insight survey to get that in there. So that would be great. And we'd be very much thankful to you if you guys took that opportunity. So with that, James also mentioned the digital work space maturity framework. That's coming soon. We hope to launch that in the next week or so. And right now, what we're going to do is anybody that's on today's call, we'll send them an exclusive invite as soon as that's ready to go. And you can go and take an online assessment to find out where you fit in that chart that James was talking about and see where you are in the maturity life cycle. And also then you can sign up for more assets to tell you a little bit more about the framework, about the stages, next steps, use cases. We've got some briefs out there as well. So there's a lot of great information for you out there if that's something you're interested in seeing out there. So be on the lookout for an exclusive invitation for that. So that being said, we'll take a look and see about any questions. I'm not seeing too many right now. So if you have any, go ahead and put some in. James, have you seen any questions pop in?
Nope. No, I can't see any at the moment.
Okay. Well, we can just give it just another second. Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap things up then?
Somebody did ask if Stratusphere is on premise. Yes, Stratusphere data is all on premise, whereas CommandCTRL is SaaS based, so it's in the cloud. But we have miles of certifications and all kind of stuff that go along with that. James, what are some of the ISO certifications and things like that to make sure our data is secure in the cloud?
ISO 27001, and I think there's a few variations on it. SOC 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our being a SaaS solution, we needed those in place. So they're all in place for CommandCTRL.
Yep.
All right, great. Well, with that being said, please go ahead and join our Slack community if you have any questions for after this call, and go ahead and pose them there and start a conversation. So with that being said, I thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Chris and James, for taking us through today's presentation, and keep an eye on your inbox for links to the survey, and also we'll send a link to this recording to everyone as well. So with that being said, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for your time.
Take care.
Take care.